The whole purpose of planet Earth is to allow and encourage planet Earth and all of its inhabitants to ascend to that place of unconditional love, divine source energy love, after going through all of the contrast and challenges that it has gone through, finding the balance where there hasn't been balance, finding equality where there has been duality. This is the whole purpose of being here. And so you must forget who you are in order for your soul to learn and have new experiences. Because if you knew who you were as a soul, you would make entirely different decisions. Welcome to the Akashic Recordings. My name is Annette Deleu. I'm an Akashic conduit, channel, and spiritual guidance coach. What you will be hearing today is a real session with one of my clients. All the names have been changed for privacy, and of course, with their permission, we are privileged to hear these beautiful stories to allow us a small glimpse into the Akashic Records. If you would like to book a session with me and be part of the podcast, please feel free to head to my website at infinitesoullove.com. When you book your session, just make sure to check the box that you would be interested in having your session utilized for the podcast. Soul Discovery Workshop is rapidly approaching for our next session. Registration is now open. It will be open until July 10th, and there are very limited spaces available. So make sure you head to my website at infinitesoullove.com to register. I will be also offering those who join Soul Discovery Workshop for this next course will get a discount on one-on-one sessions with me. You can pay in full. You can also pay in 4 increments. Classes will be starting mid-August. We haven't chosen a date yet because I'm going to wait to see who registers, and we're going to decide on a date together what works best for everyone's schedule. I cannot wait to connect with all of you, to help you with your spiritual gifts and teach you how to access the Akashic Records and form these beautiful bonds as you will with all of the rest of the people in the course. Raya and I had been working together for several weeks at this point because she had joined Soul Discovery Workshop. We had never had a session together before this particular session, but we had been working on her spiritual gifts and overcoming some of her fears and limitations. One of the fears that she had is that she is unable to access her spiritual gifts. What we uncover in this session is not only is she accessing her gifts, but she's excelling at it. Everybody's gifts look different. They are all different because we are all here in a different capacity. Our souls have different reasons for being here. So during the discussion, I talk a lot about how each individual person's journey can look different and why they look different, why we come here under this veil of forgetfulness. Why do we not remember who we are? And lastly, in the last part of the discussion, I will talk about why we have deep desires in life that seemingly don't come to fruition. So do you have sort of an idea of what you want to know in general about past lives, soul purpose, life purpose, that kind of thing?
I'm just interested actually on what my past lives have sort of generally being, and whether, you know, what I'm doing now in this life is, I mean, I get the feeling that I am on the right path, but if there's anything like, am I meant to be just doing Reiki, or am I meant to be doing other things? And a big thing is like, am I meant to be living in Australia? I've just always felt like I don't belong here. Just interested to see whether there's anything else that I should be doing or need to be doing. I've had a very unsettled adulthood.
Okay.
Just nothing has gone to plan. Everything's been always diverted. It's always been very unsettled. And it's only the last little while that I've been a little bit more settled. Pretty much since I found Reiki and started treating people myself, I've felt a little bit more settled, but it's always just that questioning always.
We'll see where that's coming from and if it is something that is stemming from a past life or is it something that is by design for your lifetime in this lifetime. The guys are just saying that we'll dive into all of that. It'll all sort of meld together through your soul purpose and life purpose. We'll find out the answers to that.
Okay, love it. Thank you.
And then we can just sort of see where we need to go from there, unless you have any other like specific questions.
It's not specific questions because I just, it's more about like where I'm meant to be and what I'm meant to be doing in life. Really, they're the main things that I just always feel unsettled with.
Have you ever felt drawn to a particular place?
Yes, I've always felt drawn to Scotland.
All right, so we'll kind of take a look at why that is as well. All right, cool.
Lovely.
Okay, how interesting. Your root chakra is sitting on a body of water, essentially. And what's interesting is that sometimes when I see this, it's like the person feels ungrounded, they feel unstable, they don't feel like they belong anywhere. But what's super interesting about you sitting on top of this root chakra floating on water is that you're surfing on it and you have a big old smile on your face and you're fine with that. So it's something about how you've created this stability in the instability. One of the things that they're showing me is that it is sort of the nature of who you are and your soul's origin, that you do not necessarily ground too much in any one given place. And that is by design because it is easier for you to connect in to the higher realms to do what you must do when you are not as grounded as, let's say, other people may be. This is where you find difficulty, is when you are very grounded, when you are in that space of being in that three-dimensional space, that's where you find it difficult to connect in. One of the things that they want you to understand about this is that they don't need you to find solidity in your root chakra. They need you to be okay with the space that you sort of swim in and the fact that it doesn't have to be solid for you to be successful and for you to feel good, quite frankly. They're going to address a little bit more of this later on, and we're going to see examples of this in some of your previous lifetimes as well.
Okay.
All right. So I'm seeing your sacral chakra as a pretty bright orange, which is great. It's doing very, very well. It's pulsating in an interesting way. I've not seen it pulsate in that way before. So can you tell me what that means exactly? It is tied to her heart space. It is also tied to her vitality and her energy. When it's ebbing and flowing, that gives her the idea of when she is in her full vitality and when she's not. The pulsing is about whether or not she is fully connected in and whether or not she is able to really connect into her higher self and to that divine nature that she has. Okay. Is there anything that we need to do in order to, let's say, make it more consistent as opposed to pulsing? Not at this time. It will naturally just right itself. Okay. All right. So then let's move that energy up to the solar plexus chakra. This is having a lot to do with a past life. I'm seeing some dark pieces in your solar plexus. They're showing it to me with mold on it, which tells me that it's very, very old, like very old. I love the analogies they always give me. It's great. So this is from a past life. So some of your feelings of inadequacy, feelings of not being good enough, those types of feelings are all beginning with this previous lifetime and just have sort of evolved from there. And you've fought them every step of the way. You're really good at fighting them. In fact, you're really good at talking yourself into the more positive energy. But it's like you feel like you're fighting a losing battle because it's like this thing is always tugging at you. We're going to take a look at that lifetime to see what it is we need to do to sort of clear that once and for all. Okay. So they're showing me your heart is so big and beautiful and loving as it pertains to the soul, as it pertains to the other side, to the energies from the divine. You have this great big love. And then when it comes to 3D humans, not so much. It's like you're seeing the separation between the 3D human and their soul. And you're able to love that soul. You're able to love that divine nature in that person. But then the actual physical 3D person is not necessarily something that you love. And so it makes it very difficult because you're seeing both, you're recognizing both in people, and they don't add up. Oftentimes, when you come across other people that are spiritual, they are more closely connected. So it is easier for you to share your heart with those people. But when it comes to people who are not in their heart space, people who are not connected to their higher self or to the divine, there's such a discrepancy between those two things that it is very hard for you to open up to them. Now, you're totally fine with them opening up to you, but it's difficult to do in the reverse.
Yeah.
Have you had this kind of situation mostly with friendships and relationships and that sort of thing?
Yep. I have never felt that anybody's ever there to be there for me, like on that level, on that level that I need them. I really don't have anybody to turn to except my spiritual friends. That's exactly right.
And a lot of that has to do with the fact that what you're asking of people and what you need is not something that they're even capable of comprehending or understanding. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And so you can ask till you're blue in the face and they're still going to look at you like, I don't understand what you want. Right. That is sort of the nature of being on this journey sometimes, where you either outgrow people or you surpass people in a way of energy. And it's like, it can be very lonely sometimes, because if people don't understand your energy and where you're coming from and what you're looking for, because they don't even understand their own energy, then it makes it hard to connect with that person.
Yeah. Lonely is absolutely the right word.
Yeah. But we're going to see what it is that you can do to help build and attract some of those connections. Okay. Yeah. Well, your crown chakra is super open, but there's not a whole lot of activity at the moment. And the reason why is they're showing me there's something in the throat chakra that we need to clear. And there's something in the heart chakra that we had talked about, that moldy bit. So those two things need to be cleared before the rest of the energies can start coming through. But I'm seeing your crown chakra as being very, very open. You're very connected. I'm seeing like little bits of, I don't know, sparkly dust or like stars coming through it. It's really lovely. Your third eye is open. I keep on hearing the word vigilant. There's something about your third eye being open that is on alert. A past life. This is also from astral projection, astral traveling, things that you do in your sleep. And it's like in the past, not recently, but in the past, you have seen a lot of things with your third eye that have been either not great, scary, and or downright terrifying. It's like your third eye is like completely on alert for whatever might be around you. So it can alert you that, hey, you need to put up your protections or whatever it is. I want to just sort of bring this message to the third eye to understand and know that your energy is in a different place than it was back then. And so it is unlikely that you are going to see things that terrifying again. It is okay to sort of relax a little bit and not be so hypervigilant. Did you have any experiences when you were a child that you can remember?
I have blocked a lot out. We had I had not a nice father. I don't really remember anything until I'm sort of like 5, 6 and so on.
Okay. Yeah. Some of it has to do with him, but it's not all having to do with him. Like you could see his energy when you were a child, and you could see the psychic debris and the buildup of ickiness that surrounded him. But it wasn't just him. It was a knock-on effect a little bit, because with his energy, he brought in other energies as well. Did he drink?
I actually don't know if I don't think he was a heavy drinker. I know he drank beer, but I don't think he wasn't an alcoholic.
You don't have to be an alcoholic. It's just a matter of like, if you are in lower energy and you drink, you can attract other lower energies to you.
Yeah.
I'm just seeing like him coming home and having like other energies sort of attached to him. It was almost like those energies were feeding on him. Mm-hmm. That also scared you because you had not only the 3-dimensional person to deal with, but then you had the energetic aspect. And that was not entirely fun for you.
He was actually schizophrenic.
Okay. Interestingly enough, the schizophrenia oddly doesn't have to do with the extra entities or energies that were attached to him.
Interesting.
So schizophrenia, the way that I've seen it in the past, presents itself in a way of fractured energy. Schizophrenia can happen sometimes when, let's say, your energy of your soul is fragmented based on some sort of trauma that happened or something else that happened with your soul. Sometimes people play with dimensions and get stuck in one dimension and the other, stuck in one parallel life and the other, and they just can't make heads or tails of any reality. Okay. Because what they're doing is they're sort of living in multiple realities at the same time. And so their conscious self and their human can't function in this one. Right. A lot of times that has to do with energetic schisms, and sometimes it can. They are showing me that it is possible to tack on some energies and entities in that way. If you're straddling a portal, if you're straddling dimensions, it can let other icky things in. But for the most part, a lot of the things that you experienced were either through astral travel or through seeing him bring home some sort of weird energy. I feel like that's something that we can address, but I don't feel like it's going to be in this session. I feel like we will have to address your relationship with him and why you chose him as a parent, why, he was in your life in your early years. All of those things. I think it's a good thing for you to know and understand. We can dive into those years that you've blocked out at some point if you feel guided. If you don't feel guided, that's fine. Sometimes we block things out for a reason and it's a good reason, right? So you don't necessarily have to unblock those, but just some things to think about after we do this session that, okay, maybe in the future that might be something I will tackle or I will want to know more information about. Okay.
I'd like to get to the bottom of everything.
Cool. Okay. Let's move that energy down into the throat chakra. I think they were saying there was something there. Yes. Okay. And this is from a past life. Yeah. Okay. I'm just seeing like a really big black dark spot. Okay. So that just indicates that it's past life and it's something that is stuck. All right. We'll take a look at what that's about too. I want to thank Akula, my Akashic guide. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you to Archangel Metatron and Archangel Sandalphon for being here as well. Today we are opening up the Akashic Records. Oh, okay. Before I dive in, because this is something that we're working on together with you being in the records, what I would like you to do is as I'm opening the records and as I'm diving into each lifetime, I want you to sort of come with me and see what comes up for you even before I say anything. Okay. You don't have to try too hard, but just, kind of relax into it and see if anything comes in. Because sometimes when you're working in the records, you can actually maybe even see an expansion of what I'm seeing, or maybe you see a different thing that could help bring clarity to the situation for you. Just pay attention if you do get anything. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Cool. Where do we need to go first? So they want to start with your life purpose, soul purpose first, and then we'll dive into the clearing. Okay, cool. Okay, so what are we addressing first? The life purpose? No, soul purpose. Okay. All right, how many lifetimes do we need to look at for soul purpose? Just one. We're going all the way back to your inception on this earth. This is your first incarnation on earth. I should clarify, your first incarnation as a human. Humans had already been established on this planet for a little while by the time you decided to incarnate here. So you felt like you were joining a party that had already started. It was like souls already knew each other, people already knew each other, and you were coming in sort of the odd man out. So from the very beginning, you felt other than, you felt different than, and there is a reason for that. Okay, so I'm hearing you say, why are they not grateful? So you came here as a higher level being. Okay. There is a planet that you have sort of originated from. I don't want to say that was your origin point, but it was a planet that you spent a lot of time on. And that planet was a very high vibrational planet. It doesn't exist anymore. It has evolved into light. And so the need for physicality in any way isn't necessary. It served its purpose. And so therefore it has no reason for being in physicality. And so you were reaching sort of the end of your experience on that planet and you wanted to go and experience something new. You had incredible information. You had incredible light about you, because this planet that you were sort of graduating from was a perfect embodiment of divine source love. If you can imagine divine source love being embodied in a being and in a planet, in physical objects, whatever that is where you were. You were coming here to bring some of those energies to this earth. You are not alone. There were other souls that came here as well that were from that planet. And when you arrived, you thought that people would be grateful and happy and excited to receive your energy and to see it and understand it and want to embody that. But instead, what you saw was lower energy that was completely incongruent with where you were. People didn't see your light. They didn't understand it. And I just keep on seeing you. So early 20s woman, it's as if you had the consciousness of who you were in the previous planet. Okay, angels, how is that possible? Because we do have that veil of forgetfulness that we have a tendency to not pay attention to, but that we move into when we get on this planet. Why is it that she remembered? She remembered because her energy is so big and so pure from that previous experience that it was almost impossible for her to have the veil of forgetfulness in the first few incarnations. She had to lower her energy specifically so she could have that veil of forgetfulness, so she could have more of a human experience. Okay. So the first few lifetimes for her were really difficult because she was able to remember where she came from and who she was and how beautiful that energy was. And then coming to this planet and having the antithesis of that, quite frankly, felt like going to hell for her. So you tried to figure out ways that you could help, that you could deliver messages or help people understand their path. And you kept on trying to find ways to deliver the messages, and people just didn't believe you, didn't understand you, thought you were nuts. It was not an easy lifetime for you in that first lifetime. The difference is, though, is that at the time when you were still remembering who you used to be, you didn't really connect to the people here on Earth because you didn't feel like you needed to. So it was like, why do I need to really connect with these people? Because I have all this information from where I used to be, so I don't have a need to have connection to these people. I have that divine love within myself that is connected to who I was and to the souls that I used to connect to there. And there's no reason for me to connect to the people here. And so that was another reason why you had a hard time connecting to other people, and why you still have a hard time is because you really never have been in that space of really, really low energy. And that's part of the challenge for you, is that, as bizarre as this sounds, it's really hard for you as a soul to get into lower energy. Whereas most souls are trying to get into higher energy, but for you, it's harder to get into lower energy. So oftentimes you would have to incarnate into more difficult situations in order to physically experience lower energy, so you would be able to lower your energy so you could relate to others. This also explains why you would have incarnated with your father in this lifetime. Okay. They're saying there's more to it than that, but that's a little preview, if you will. So her sole purpose was to essentially bring the information, the light codes, the knowledge that she had from that previous planet. Yes. Okay. And has she been able to do this? Yes. She has been able to do it, and it's actually what she is doing when she does Reiki. She doesn't understand exactly what she's doing when she does the Reiki healing, because what her understanding of it is based on the rules of this earth, as opposed to the rules of the soul that she is and the planet that she came from. The Reiki that she does is the closest thing that she can coincide with things that she used to do on the other planet. The difference is the amount of energy and the type of energy that is being utilized. She is using Reiki energy. That is one thing. But she is also using 15 other types of energy from her soul origination point. And those are the energies that she doesn't understand. Those are the energies that she is using and is 100% unaware that she is using them. She sees the results of it. She sees the actual healing that is taking place, or the lifting of energy that is taking place. She sees it and understands that is happening. But now she understands that it is actually coming from elsewhere. It is coming from another place. It is coming from her origin point. Okay. Well, isn't her origin point the same as all of our origin points? We all come from the same source, if that's the case. Yes, that is the case. It is that we all come from the same source. It's just that once she came from her origin point to the next place, that next place was the planet that we spoke of. And so that is technically her soul's origin point after she broke off and individualized from divine source energy. Okay, got it. So is there anything else that she was meant to do in her soul purpose? No, this is all that she is meant to do. Okay. She has been successful in doing it every single lifetime, because even if her human self is not able to understand or know exactly what she's doing, her soul is doing it regardless. Okay. The challenge for her has been the human life. That has been the challenge for her. I'm going to pause there. Do you have any questions?
I'm just a bit blown away, actually. I understand what they're saying. I don't have any questions, no, because I'm just trying to take it in. I'm just a bit blown away.
Yeah, sometimes it can take a little bit for all of it to sink in. So if you have questions later, you can always ask.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So then let's take a look at your life purpose then. So we're looking at the lifetime just before this one. It's just a continuation of what you have been doing. Okay. So I play video games, so they sometimes put this stuff in terms of video games for me. So it's like you've been doing a couple of side quests for a while. The last several lifetimes you've been doing side quests, and the side quests have to do with your human life and what you can accomplish in a human life. The really nice thing is that, yes, you have this beautiful divine energy and you have this learning that you've been doing on this planet. You have these experiences that you've been doing on this planet that allow you to be able to sort of refine the work that you do, to refine how you relate, to refine how you're able to integrate this energy for other people. One of the side quests you have embarked on has been over the course of the last 5 lifetimes. And we're going to take a look to see where you are in terms of this. Okay, so in the last lifetime, I'm seeing you practicing on animals. You were doing a lot of practicing, and it's like, oh, okay, so you were practicing receiving. You were practicing receiving love and energy from the animals. Receiving from animals is actually much, much, much easier than from humans. One of the side quests you've been working on has been about trying to receive what people give you in terms of love, even if it doesn't match up with the energy that you know as love. Because ultimately, the only thing that matches up to what your energy says is love would be pure divine source love. It's like the only thing that matches up. It's like everything else that's not that is sort of lower energy to you. So what this is teaching you is that it can be just as powerful and pure as divine source love, because it is divine source love. It's just being channeled through a different being and through different experiences, through a different form. You're trying to recognize what those forms are, how it comes in. Is it real? Is it not? Is it aligned? Is it not? So you're just sort of practicing diving into these energies back and forth, back and forth. Your last lifetime, like I said, you were focusing mostly on animals, connecting to horses, connecting to dogs and cats and ducks and chickens, and any animal that you could connect to, you tried. You learned a lot about grief. You learned more about grief in the last lifetime than you had in most of your incarnations, because grief really is a gauge of love. And so in the past, you had loved, but you had not allowed that love from that person to sort of reach your heart fully. And so, of course, you grieved other people in other lifetimes, but it was not the same as it was when you were grieving these animals. Some of them were pets of yours, some of them were animals you saved or rescued. And when they died, it was devastating for you. And you really had to identify and assess where all of that was coming from, because you did know on a soul level that there is nothing that is preventing you from connecting to that animal once they cross over. Technically, you could just connect to them on the other side. It's just that at this point, you have integrated into your human self enough and you're grounded enough into it that your human experience does prevent you from connecting in fully to your divine nature, which that's been part of the process. It's been part of the goal. That was one of the other side quests you had too, which was to really learn how to be human and really learn how to be in the physical body and live without the knowledge of who you are. And you eventually got to that point. All right, so that was the last lifetime. What was this lifetime? What is the life purpose for this lifetime? So once she learned the lessons of the last lifetime with the animals, this lifetime is for her to graduate to the human. And so her life purpose in this lifetime is to receive love from other humans. Okay. And they're saying in whatever form it comes. So you have a tendency to be very discerning, which is not a bad thing. Discerning is good, but it also blocks out a lot of love that could be coming to you that you don't allow in. And the reason for this is because you don't want to allow anything in that is less than what you know is good for you. Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. So what can we know in order to help understand what needs to be done in order for her to receive that love? She has to understand her own power. She has to understand that she is secure, she is loved, and she is protected. So if she were to receive love from another, it would not necessarily mean that that is going to end in grief. It is what she associates with receiving love is pain or grief. And that has a lot to do with the previous lifetime because animals' lifetimes are much shorter. And so in this lifetime, she has to know and understand that while human lives are short, they are much longer than most animals' lives. So the amount of grief that she's going to have to go through if she does allow that heart to receive is less than what she experienced in the previous lifetime. All right. Does that make sense?
It does. And funny enough, I still always surround myself with animals, and animals seem to affect me more than humans do. Like if a human dies, it's sad, but it doesn't affect me in the same way as if an animal dies.
Yeah.
Still, like I can't watch any shows with animals if they're hurt, or I can't deal with it. Humans, little shows, no problem. Like I don't even I barely shed a tear. Like, yeah. But animals, I can't. I just cannot.
You know, it's funny I'm exactly the same way. As a side note, like I was watching Wheel of Time last night, and I think it was a wolf that got killed, and I wasn't expecting it, and it came out of nowhere. And actually in the show, it showed the dog's soul like rising up from the body. Oh, I was bawling my eye. I was crying so hard.
Oh my gosh.
But I mean, I'm the same way. It affects me. Like anytime it's an animal, it's like it'll affect me 10 times more. So yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah.
So yeah, the connecting with humans is going to be a theme for you.
And it's interesting because when you say that, because I attract humans, like I attract people with problems, always have. Doesn't matter where I am, like literally in the doctor's surgery waiting in the area, and I'll attract somebody who wants to tell me their whole life story and want me to help them. It doesn't matter where I am. I attract people with problems who obviously want to be comforted and listened to.
It's also that they're connecting to your energy. If they're connecting to your energy, then they're being healed as they're talking to you. So there needs to be I don't want to say a boundary. I think that's the wrong word, but maybe there needs to be some awareness surrounding that and whether or not that is something that you have the energy to do at that moment. And if you do, fine. If you don't, then being able to very politely say somehow in some way, I don't have time at the moment, or I would really love to hear your story. I do have other things that I need to do, whatever it is that you need to do to get away from it. That is something that you will need to work on. And that's something that they're pointing at your throat chakra. And so this has a little bit to do with your throat chakra and one of the past lives that we're going to look at that has an effect on it.
Right.
Okay, so let's take a look at that lifetime then. So are the solar plexus and the throat chakra, are those connected? They are not. They're two separate lifetimes. Okay. Oh, they're saying that's why they put the mold on there to make it obvious to me that they weren't the same. Oh, okay, got it. Cool. All right, thanks. Okay, so the throat chakra, let's see what's going on there. Oh, yeah. Okay. So I'm seeing a couple of different incarnations. One, you were a female. The other one, you were a male. The first one, and I'm hearing the word Alexandria, you were in a place where you could communicate the information from the channel that you were channeling from the divine information, from the universal knowledge. You would say something and people would listen to you and they would say that they understood you. They would say that what you had said is the most amazing, magical thing that anybody's ever said. And then they would turn around and say, okay, we're going to go do that. What you just said, we're going to go do that. And then they would just do like the opposite, or they would do something completely wrong or different than what you had been talking about. And you're like, what just happened? And they were completely convinced that they had taken your message and interpreted it correctly and went and acted upon it. And there was something just wrong with the translation in that. There was something wrong with the interpretation of the energy. You felt like no matter what you said, it would get twisted around and turned completely misread or misspoken, misunderstood, all of those things. And so you took to writing things down and hoping that maybe with writing that would help people to understand more clearly. And it did actually. Writing did help people understand a bit more clearly, mainly because the energy of reading something versus hearing it directly from you was completely different, because what these people were experiencing was in your energy. And then when they got out of your energy, it's like they tried to interpret what they heard and felt and experienced outside of your energy, and they couldn't do it. So it actually had nothing to do with your voice. It had everything to do with just your energy affecting them and them having no idea how to replicate that when they left your energy field.
Right.
So when you were able to write things down, that's when then the message started being heard. And so I'm hearing that this melded over into the next life, where you incarnated in the same place. You were a man in this time. You realized being a man was going to be much easier. And so you continued writing. Some of your writings, they were in the Library of Alexandria. That's why they mentioned that. Okay.
Gosh.
That is really cool. And so a lot of it was directly channeled from source. And they're saying that a lot of the ancient philosophers were doing the same thing. So, when you consider Plato, Socrates, all of the old philosophers, they were doing the same thing. Okay. But where this throat blockage came in is that you realized that no matter what you said, people wouldn't understand you. So that's why you took to writing. And so that kind of taught you that you couldn't speak. You couldn't speak to people. You couldn't tell them something and have them understand. Like, it had to be written down and you had to be away from them. Like, it had to be like, not in their vicinity. That just sort of created this belief system over the course of lifetimes that you basically said, okay, well, if I need to help somebody, I need to not speak and I need to just be there to deliver the message in any way that I can without interfering with their energy field or their life. So that further isolated you as well, which in the next several lifetimes, you couldn't figure out why you were so isolated, even though it was soul led. Like, your soul was like, yeah, cool, we're going to isolate ourselves because that's what needs to happen. But like your human self, you were like, but why am I so isolated? I don't want this. It became kind of this dance between you and your soul. And you're just like, me as a human, I want this. And your soul's like, yeah, but you can't, because then you can't do your job. Right. So that's when you started deciding to do these side quests where you're like, yeah, but we can do both at the same time. We don't have to do just one thing. We can do multiple things. Everybody does. And so your soul decided that, cool, okay, let's do that and this, and let's do more things throughout a lifetime rather than just one. It was after these couple of lifetimes that you did start to work through different aspects of your humanity. This is the one thing that you need to understand regarding your throat chakra, and how we clear your throat chakra right now is helping you to understand that you can speak now and people will understand. The earth has ascended enough and people have ascended enough for you to channel, for you to speak the words of the divine and have people understand, and you will be heard. And people can be in your energy field and not be negatively affected, which is why you're able to do the work you are doing now. And in fact, you are positively impacting people's lives by being in their energy field. This is part of the reason why doing Reiki for you is effortless. I don't know why they're showing me, but they're saying like you almost have unlimited energy. When you do Reiki work, you don't get tired often.
No, I don't.
Yeah.
And actually people ask me that, doesn't it make you tired? It's like, no, it doesn't actually.
Yeah. Because it actually is it's just you and your energy, and like you're just doing your thing. It's natural for you. It's not something you have to strive at or that you have to work really hard at.
And it's like the massage I do too. I don't like your body's tired at the end of the day, but I don't get tired doing it.
Yeah.
And then clients actually say to me, like I had one client on Friday who said to me, she was a new client, and she said to me, oh my gosh, that was the most amazing thing. She said, there's a lot more going on there than just massage, isn't there? There has to be. And she didn't even know what I did. Like she didn't know that I was a Reiki healer.
Oh,
and
wow.
That was quite that just like shocked me.
Yeah.
So I sometimes think maybe I am just putting healing energy just through massages without even knowing it.
Yeah, you definitely are. And it's funny because I actually had that exact same experience when I was in Los Angeles this past time. So I went to see a new massage therapist, and I could kind of tell when I first walked into the room that like he was probably connected, but I didn't really know overtly, right? When he was having me breathe through certain things, and then he had put his hands on the top of my back by my shoulder blades, and like there was something he did there that I was like, oh yeah, he's doing Reiki. He's working the energy, and I can tell. And at the end of the massage, I said the exact same thing that your client said to you. And I was like, you're an energy healer, aren't you? He's like, yeah, kind of. I think so. I'm not formally trained, but I think I do that. And I was like, yeah, you definitely are. And he's a nurse, the other part of his life. So he's a nurse and a massage therapist. So I'm like, yeah, you're definitely a healer. And he's like, yeah, you know, I try to work with the energies, and I'm pretty sure that that's what I'm doing, but I've never been trained. I was like, you don't need to be trained. I was like, you're good. I'm like, just keep doing what you're doing. So
yeah,
most certainly that is exactly what you're doing.
Wow.
Okay. So let's see what else. Is there anything else that we need to do with the throat chakra to clear it? No. Okay. So just her awareness of this is going to start to clear it. Yes. All right, great. One of the things also that they're telling me is that it's part of why you do have challenges seeing psychically. Okay. Because when you are trying to see or read people, weirdly enough, you're lowering your energy to do so. It's why when you opened up the records that you were able to see, and you were able to see something there, because the records are a higher energy. And so for you to, let's say, do an intuitive reading or whatever it is, like you are technically lowering your energy in order to do so.
Wow. Okay.
Which is kind of the opposite of what everybody teaches you. Because everybody teaches you that you have to raise your energy, raise your vibration, raise your frequency in order to read people, in order to step into your psychic gifts. The reason why you have been struggling so much is because you're trying to do something that is not aligned with your soul. You're not meant to raise your vibration and frequency anymore. Your frequency is already high. What you need to do in order to read people is actually lower it, which is even harder for you.
Wow. Okay. Which is so funny because I've always, I try to learn and do all this stuff to raise my vibrations, always on my mind to raise how can I heighten my vibration?
Now we can always raise our vibration in terms of our physical bodies. Like that's always something that we can strive for, because our physical bodies definitely do need to be adjusted for the ascension. But the thing is that your physical body has been very, very used to your energy, which is already a very high frequency. So like your body doesn't really need all that much adjusting. There are times when it does, but like for the most part, it's used to it. It's used to the frequency you have.
Wow. Okay. Well, that's very validating.
I'm seeing that you haven't had a lot of illness in your life, have you?
No. And it's funny. It's only when I tried to do all this work and release things and try to do all this work that I actually end up with illnesses and injuries. I actually not been a sick person ever. Yeah.
Yeah.
And even when I'm sick, I'm still well. Like I can still carry on and get on with things even when I'm sick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because your energy just basically kind of keeps you well. That's all. Like it's like you're constantly in that Reiki energy, that it's just constantly healing your body on a regular basis.
Right. Yeah. Because like all the COVID stuff, I never got anything. Never, haven't even had a test. I've just never, haven't had, just marched on through it like I do with everything.
Yeah. And you haven't needed it.
No.
Okay. We're going to go to the solar plexus chakra next. Okay. So in one of your lifetimes, and this was one of the earlier lifetimes that you had, once you realized that you needed to really lower your vibration in order to exist on this planet and to walk amongst the humans and be human-like, you were like, okay, I guess I need to incarnate in some pretty tough circumstances so I can lower my vibration. And the first couple of lifetimes you did that, you gave yourself a little bit too much challenge. So the first one I'm seeing, you had your heart ripped out and your self-worth, your self-confidence, all of it just completely obliterated. And it started with both of your parents, in fact, in this particular lifetime. So I'm seeing your parents after you were born, like right after you were born, like literally throwing you away.
My gosh.
And somebody found you and started to raise you, who was quite loving. And then your parents came back and took you back and then abandoned you again. And then took you back and abandoned you again. And this happened multiple times throughout your childhood.
Would that explain why I have abandonment issues now? Like in this life?
It's part of it, yeah. When you were looking at it on paper before you incarnated, you're like, oh yeah, that looks like it'll be enough to lower my vibration. But you didn't understand before you incarnated what exactly that would do to you. The constant insecurity of love. Like you would think that they would love you and then they wouldn't, and they would abandon you and then they would love you and abandon you. And then the person who was trying to raise you, who really did love you and who was really consistent, it's like you couldn't receive her love because you were constantly chasing the love of your parents. I just keep on hearing like, why can't they love me? I'm seeing you're wearing brown boots, a long brown jacket, and a hat. You're probably 16. So your father came to get you at one point. He hadn't seen you in several years, and he tried to sexually assault you. Like he saw that you were a full grown woman now, right? And like he had no connection to you as his daughter at all. And neither did your mom. I'm curious as to why they kept on coming back to get her if they had no connection to her. It was ultimately guilt why they kept on going back, because they kept on remembering that they had a daughter and that maybe they should do something about it. And so they would go back and try to take care of her for a little while and then realize that it's not what they wanted. And they would convince themselves that she wasn't their daughter and that it wasn't her, because they did give her up when she was a baby. So they could convince themselves that it was not the right person. So they oscillated between guilt, shame, and apathy. And it was when her father tried to sexually assault her, he was not successful. She was able to get away. It was after that she never did see her parents again. Okay. You had a really hard time in that life, really seeing people in a positive light. It was probably one of the first times in any of your incarnations that you had really experienced firsthand like what you would consider to be evil.
Right.
You had seen it in previous lifetimes, but you had never experienced that firsthand. You did start to internalize it. Like, what is it about me that they felt like they could just throw away? Why is it that everybody else's parents love them unconditionally from what you would observe and my parents couldn't? You did start to think that it had something to do with you. I'm hearing, am I not lovable? You knew you had a little bit of a hard edge to you. You had a little bit of an attitude, and you thought maybe that was why, but then it wouldn't make sense because they gave you up as a child, so that wouldn't make sense for now. And I just keep on seeing you throughout the rest of this lifetime trying to figure it out, trying to figure out how people could be that cruel, how people could be that unloving. And you went back and forth between it being you or it not being you. You were like, no, it's them. They're crazy people. Or, yeah, it is me. I can't find anybody who will love me. Meanwhile, there was the woman who did raise you for the most part, and she loved you deeply. But like I said, you just couldn't receive that love. You couldn't see it. And she loved you unconditionally. But you also felt not a part of that family because she had children of her own. And you always thought that she loved her children more than you. And that wasn't the case, but that's how you felt. And then her husband was relatively absent. He wasn't really available. He was working most of the time. He didn't actually show up often in the house that you saw. And so that also sort of created this idea that men are just not available. And if they're not available, they don't care. And if they are available, they want something from you or they are scheming in some way. Yeah. So this lifetime sort of solidified a lot of these little belief systems in you. Okay. So what else do we need to do in order to help clear the moldy bits from her solar plexus chakra and heal that heart space as well? She just needs to understand that these were circumstances that she did choose as a soul. She chose them because she needed to lower her vibration in order to be effective in what she came here to do as a soul purpose. She has to forgive herself for putting her human self in such extreme circumstances that were almost too much for anyone human to bear. The amount of things she experienced in that lifetime were tenfold of what we are telling you now. The amount of heartbreak, the amount of abandonment, the amount of fear, pain that she experienced. There were many other instances of this. This was just the major incidents of it. She did, in fact, understand later on that she did not need to be that hard on herself in order to lower her energy. It doesn't take that much to lower energy. But the damage had already been done, and she has been trying to clear it ever since. All right, so what else do we need to do in order to help her clear it? There's nothing further we need to do to help her clear it. Her awareness of it will clear it on its own. Yeah, I forgot that you're basically like self-cleansing, so your energy will probably take care of it. Now that you're aware of it, your energy will take care of it. Okay. So do you have any other questions about that lifetime?
Well, it's interesting because as you're saying everything, I can see so many things from that lifetime actually in this lifetime.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Not the sexual assault part, but just the abandonment and the why can't I be loved? What's wrong with me? That tossing and turning, because I've had, like, my mother's walked away several times, even in this lifetime. So I can see so many similarities between that lifetime and this lifetime as you were talking.
Yeah, you didn't choose an easy path in terms of when you decided to come here on Earth, because just the very nature of your energy is something that affects the woman who bears you. So if you can imagine, if people can't really handle the intensity of the frequency of your energy and it gets misinterpreted and things like that, as it did in the past lives, imagine somebody having that energy within them for the birth. There are times when you have actually decided as a soul to not incarnate in your human form until after the birth, because especially depending on the woman who bears you, they are not able to handle the energy. They are not in a high enough frequency to handle the energy. That could also have a bearing on how much connection the mother has with the child. Because if the soul waits until after they're born to enter into the child, then that's that bonding time that you can have with the soul inside the womb hasn't happened. That's not unusual though. There are a lot of souls that do that. It just creates a particular type of connection or lack of connection. And it has nothing to do with you. It just has to do with the fact that your energy and her energy are just they're not congruent together.
Would that explain, because I had a Reiki session on Monday trying to cut the cords with my mum and my grandma, and my Reiki master said to me that there was something like my mum has been very overly protective of me right from when something happened when I was in utero. Would that be connected with me then, almost possibly not, as you say, not coming into the human form until after the birth? Maybe there was something.
Yep.
Would that connect up? Does that make sense?
It does. Let's see what might have been going on there. One thing that could have happened is it's possible you may have revised something, or maybe you changed your mind or something like that. So let me see what happened here. Oh, okay. You actually decided to try to ensoul while you were in utero, and you did. And you realized it had a negative effect on her body and that it wasn't going to work. You tried because you thought maybe it would work, but it didn't. And so
Wow.
you did pop into your body in utero for a period of time. It wasn't very long. I'm hearing a couple of days. And when you popped out again to wait until after the child was born, it created I don't even know how to describe this. It was like almost like a shock to the energy.
Right.
Did she almost lose you?
Not that she's never said anything, no. Oh, but I have a feeling, I'll have to re-ask her, but I have a feeling that I went to come early and then it was stopped and then I just didn't want to come at all.
Okay.
I think that was me.
Yeah. Okay.
There's 4 of us in the family, but I think that was me.
Okay.
And then that's when she had to have a Caesar with me because I wouldn't come.
Got it.
I think.
Yeah, there was something that did happen when you entered and then when you left. And it created some sort of event within her that eventually stabilized, but in that moment, it was kind of touch and go from her perspective. Now, you knew as a soul that the child would be fine, but like you realized that it was a mistake for you to try to be ensouled in that moment.
I'll have to ask her.
Yeah, it's tough because I just keep on seeing all of these situations where you try to be connected to humans or to the humans that you're born into or whatever situation you have. You're trying. And each time you try, it's like your energy it's too big for the person, for the body, for the, whatever situation it is. No matter how much you sort of dumb down your energy, it still is almost too much. Let me ask, so do her other counterparts, like the other people that came here from that other planet she came from, are they all experiencing the same thing? They are. Okay. And has she met other people that are from her planet? Yes. Okay. She is starting to meet them now. She hasn't in the past. And she will be calling in more in the future. Is this a reason why she's drawn to Scotland? No. She's drawn to Scotland because of a previous lifetime. It's just a place that she remembers fondly and really loves. So does that mean that she is meant to go there in this lifetime? Not necessarily. She can visit there. She is not necessarily meant to live there specifically. We don't necessarily want her energy to be lowering at this point anymore. These were things that she had to do in the past, but she doesn't necessarily need to do as much anymore. She can keep her energy in a high vibration and still do what she's here to do, in addition to being able to open her heart and still love in a way that's going to be received by her and others. So she's going to have to find that balance that suits her in terms of place, climate, all of those things. I'm hearing that if you wanted to, you could go spend like 6 months there and see what happens.
Yeah, I was thinking about just going over there just to see.
Is she being guided to go different places because her energy is needed? Yes and no. There are enough of her kind here on the planet that she doesn't necessarily have to move around in order to cover various places on the planet. But we do understand her need to move around because of the type of energy that she is. Yeah, because you're not super grounded to the planet in general, it makes sense that you would feel restless or wouldn't want to necessarily be stuck in one place.
Yeah, that explains a lot. Yeah.
So even if you did find a place that you really, really, really loved and you wanted to stay, you would most likely kind of have the same feeling.
Yeah.
That's why they were showing you to me like surfing on that, because you're used to it, but you're just going to have to understand that that's just part of who you are as a soul. And you're going to have to learn to embrace that part of you that is just restless.
Yeah.
Do the things you need to do to like satiate that restlessness. So if that does mean you're going to travel a bit more, then maybe do that. If that means you're going to move somewhere else, that's fine. But you're going to have to understand that you're going to feel the same way.
Same way. Yeah. That helps a lot because now I can, as I said, learn to live with that feeling, manage that feeling. Yeah.
I am going to ask, does she need to move anywhere in order to find more of her soul family, if you will? It's not necessarily a soul family, but it is somewhat of sorts, I guess. There are higher concentrations of her kind elsewhere. Can you tell us where? There are a whole bunch in India.
That's so funny because that's where some of my heritage is from.
Oh, wow. Yeah, it is. It's sort of a hot spot because it's easier to incarnate there.
Yeah.
From an energetic perspective.
Right.
Because there are a lot more people that are open in that way. So the effectiveness of what you do is easier to accomplish there. And then also it's a great place to dismantle old energies as well. So it kind of is a hot spot for the kind of soul that you are.
Wow.
I'm seeing dots of the souls everywhere on the planet. So I don't think there's any place that you'll go where you won't find souls that are like you. But Where you are, you're in Sydney, yeah?
Yes, yes.
I'm seeing a few there, but not a lot. I'm seeing more in Melbourne. There are quite a few in Scotland as well. They're going to be more focused in Isle of Skye, Highlands area.
Yeah, it's the Highlands that I'm drawn to.
Yeah, that's not surprising. One thing I've noticed, which is a really odd thing to stumble upon, I connected with this woman in Nova Scotia who's a numerologist, and a lot of the people in the course talk about her and Perry. So she's in Nova Scotia, and like there's a huge spiritual community there. And I'm always like, that's so weird. Like, why there specifically? And then like my guides showed me that when the continents were together, Nova Scotia and Scotland were the same landmass. And actually, in fact, Nova Scotia means New Scotland.
Scotland, yeah.
The land is the same. The energy is the same.
Right.
And so that makes a lot of sense now that I know that. They're saying that you're going to find more of your kind anywhere there's like really high energy vortices, places like that, Sedona, those kinds of places, because your kind has a tendency to sort of gravitate there just because it's easier to be who you are there. And it's part of the reason why you have such fond memories of Scotland, because of that.
And it's interesting because Nova Scotia is another place that I've always wanted to go, and I've actually got all the maps and info here.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and everybody just keeps saying, "Why do you want to go there? There's nothing there." I've never actually been, and but it's one place that I've always wanted to go as well. So that's just too funny funny how you're drawn to those places without even knowing it.
Yeah, 100%. Did you have any other questions that you wanted answered?
Not really, because you've calmed me down an awful lot about everything will happen in its own good time. So I just keep releasing resistance and doing all of that. So, but what you told me today, that just makes so much sense. Like that, and just so much, honestly. Especially the vibrational work and things, because I've always just thought, how come I can't raise my vibrations like everybody else? Like, how come I can't do it?
Yeah.
So what you told me today just reverses everything.
Yep.
Yeah.
And gives you permission to not have to strive so much.
Yeah. And even just like, as you said, with that's why in my last life, how I distrust men or the absent, because I've not ever had a true partner in this life either.
Yeah.
So that would probably explain that too.
Mm-hmm. Let me take a look at that real quick. I want to see if you have anything in your destiny points that talk about a partner for you. Yes, you do. And I am seeing this person come in for you. And they basically said, you're not allowed to tell her. So you're not meant to know how, when, all of those things. Just know that it is going to happen. The thing is that your life purpose is to open your heart to humans, right? It would be sort of counterproductive for you to not have the opportunity to do so.
Yeah.
So once you get to that place where your heart is open enough to receive, that is when this person is going to come in.
Right.
So if there's anything that is sort of a takeaway from this of something that you do need to work on, it is that heart opening in whatever way it needs to happen.
And would that be the reason, it just came to me while you were doing that, but would that be the reason why like having children just never happened for me? Is that all to do with that as well?
Yeah. Having children is a little bit like having pets in the sense that it's easy to love. So your choices for this lifetime were about being able to open your heart to love. I can see where there could be situations where having children would open somebody's heart. And I have seen that before. That's not your problem. Like I could see you opening your heart to a child, to a pet easily and completely ignoring your husband.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
It would just be sort of like a path of least resistance. So it would be easy to love the child like it's easy to love a pet.
Yeah. So sort of be counterproductive.
Right. So your challenge is to love someone who is, in your experience, history, past lives, all of that is difficult to love.
Yeah. Got it. Yeah.
Did you want to have children?
I always wanted to have a family. Yeah.
Okay.
That's why this life seems, and I think that's why, like I've accepted it now, but I think that's why I've always just been completely unsettled in this life, because it's just nothing I've planned has happened. So it's just, yeah.
What's interesting about that
is everyone has to be untethered at a certain point in their spiritual journey. And by untethered, I mean untethered by this earthly plane. Oftentimes, if we are tethered to it, it can create more reasons for us to incarnate here again. It can create more work for us. And I've heard the sort of phrase before, which I think is an interesting phrase, but I believe karma is something different than what most people think it is. I feel like karma is basically what we decide as souls that we need to work on based on any number of guilt, shame, lower energies that have happened in the past. It's not something that is being given to us, meaning that you have to work off your karma, otherwise bad stuff is going to happen to you. I don't believe in that. But children are karma because it ties you to this earth. So if you are meant to do other things, having children can distract you. Having children can make you not want to cross over and do the things that you may need to do. How many families have lost loved ones, and people talk about their loved ones being there for them after they pass? That kind of stuff. It's not only an earthly obligation, but it's almost like an afterlife obligation that people sometimes feel that they have to do, or that they have already signed up to do. So not having children allows you to do more of what you need to do.
Yeah. And I had a feeling, because a few people have said that, like, do you get the feeling that you just weren't meant to, like you've got other things to do? Yeah.
Yeah. Now, here's the interesting piece, though. It's not to say that whatever person you're going to end up in a relationship with won't end up being your family. Like, maybe they already have kids. Maybe they have a huge family that you end up being integrated in. There could be any number of those types of things that happen.
Yeah.
Because I feel like you wouldn't have the desire if it wasn't something that was meant for you. So for example, I didn't have kids, but I really never wanted them. I knew from a very young age that I was likely not going to have children. Biologically, it kind of happened that way as well. I started having issues with my ovaries and stuff like that, like at 20. My body physiologically, as well as my consciousness, were like, nope, I don't think I'm going to do that this life. And I have zero regrets. I have zero real thoughts about it. I know for me, that is part of my trajectory, that I was just really never meant to have children in this life.
Yeah.
The fact that you did have a desire and didn't, that says to me that it is a possibility that it could still come, but in a different form.
Yeah. Which I've always been open to. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Have you looked into what it would be like to move your pets elsewhere?
Yes. And it scares me too much that you hear of all these terrible things that happen.
Yeah.
There's no way I'd take these animals. And I've always said I wouldn't move until all these animals have had their little lives.
Yeah. 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 But there's nothing to say that you can't go for an extended vacation somewhere or work from that place. You could set up a little connection with somebody in Scotland, maybe do some Reiki sessions while you're there, take 2 or 3 months or, however long you want to have somebody come and stay at your place. And that would be something that you could do.
Yeah. Okay. It's good to know. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So we are going to close the Akashic Records. Thank you to Akula, my Akashic Guide. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for allowing us access to the records today. The records are closed. The records are closed. The records are closed. Thank you. Wonderful. Okay. How do you feel?
Oh, I feel so much better. Like everything just is starting to gel now. It just makes so much sense. Like just some of the things that came up. Yeah.
Oh, I'm so glad. Good.
Yeah.
Perfect. All right.
Oh,
thank you so much, my dear.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
I would like to thank Raya for allowing me to use our session for the podcast. I'm going to touch on 3 different subjects today. It might be a bit more in depth than we usually go because I feel like these are really important topics. The first is when you start comparing yourself to others and their journeys, and wondering why your journey is not unfolding that way, most likely it's because you have a different journey. Every single spiritual awakening is different. Everybody's gifts are different. It's not one size fits all. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that. We're going to talk about being a super high vibrational being and how that works while being incarnated on this planet. We're going to talk about the veil of forgetfulness, if you will. I'm going to ask my guides for a little channeled message about why that happens and what we can do to make sure that that veil is as thin as possible the next time around. And lastly, I would like to address when we have deep desires, such as Raya expressed the deep desires to have children, and yet it hasn't happened for her yet in this lifetime. Does it mean that we are meant to have what we deeply desire in a lifetime? I'm going to ask my guides for a channeled message about that as well. So first, let's talk about every spiritual awakening is not the same. So many of you have heard me talk about my spiritual awakening story. You have heard countless spiritual awakening stories, I'm certain. You know that not every person is meant to be a psychic. They're not meant to be a numerologist or an astrologer or an Akashic record conduit or reader. Everybody has their own unique place on this earth. Every soul has their own unique job on this earth. There is not one particular thing that is going to match with somebody else's journey, even if you are doing the exact same job, because every energy signature is different. Like fingerprints, each one of our energies is entirely different from somebody else's. So even if your path looks the same as somebody else's, it's not. With Raya, one of the struggles she was having during the workshop was that she was feeling like she wasn't getting things the way that other people were getting things. She wasn't seeing visions. She wasn't hearing the things that other people were hearing. And oftentimes I would ask her, well, what is it that you did get? And often she would come up with things that she did get. It was just not in the way that everybody else was getting it. So when you're developing your spiritual gifts, I always ask, especially people in the Soul Discovery Workshop, to throw out any preconceived notion they have of what this is supposed to look like, what you're supposed to be connecting to when you tap into your spiritual gifts. Everyone is psychic. Everybody has all the clairs. Everybody has all of these beautiful gifts, but it all comes in differently. People see things maybe, or maybe they hear things and they don't see things, or maybe you feel things, but you don't see or hear them. Maybe you just know them. That's what we call your dominant clairs. So if your dominant clair is clairsentience, you're going to be feeling things most of the time. As you hone your skills further and further, you will start to realize that you're using all of your clairs. But again, those come in differently for everyone. They are felt and seen differently for everyone. So I always ask everybody to take a moment to just let go of any of those preconceived notions and allow what is going to come in to come in. Allow the easiest thing to come in. Don't try so hard to try to have this projection of what you feel like it's supposed to be. So allowing Raya to hear her soul purpose was such a freeing experience for her, because she now realizes that she is a higher frequency being, that she in fact doesn't really need to spend a whole lot of time trying to raise her vibration. And in fact, she isn't really meant to have sort of this psychic vision or have all of these tools that maybe she thought she needed to have. Now she is able to embrace exactly where she is. She is able to take the talents that she has, which are immense. She's incredibly gifted at Reiki and energy healing, and that is exactly what she is doing. And as she hones her gifts, as she develops them even further, it will only serve to amplify what she is already doing, adding more tools to the tool belt, so to speak. So I often joke about the fact that astrology just falls out of my brain. And it's so true. Like, I hear anything about astrology and I'm like, oh yeah, that's cool. That totally resonates. I totally get that. And then I will literally forget it the next day. It took me years to actually even remember my rising sign, for God's sakes, which is Gemini. Yeah, Gemini. So I really encourage you to let go of any belief systems you have of what your spiritual awakening is meant to be, of what your psychic gifts are meant to be. Even if you have a best friend or a partner who is really adept at something and you really want to be able to do the same thing, let that go too, because maybe your soul is calling for something different. And this is where knowing your soul purpose can be really, really vital to your journey, because if you know your soul purpose is calling you to do this particular thing, then you know that going in that very easy stream of energy is going in the right direction. Your life, your body, your soul, everything that you are is going to show you what is the right direction. And if you feel like you're coming up against too many blocks, ask your soul, what is it that you need to do? Do you need to let go of this one particular thing? Or do you need to move forward and move through that block? Or is it a little bit of both? Maybe the block is actually showing you something, that it's maybe not the right direction. Pay attention to how it feels in your body. So for Raya, she was getting frustrated with some of the things that she wasn't able to connect to. And so when we opened up this picture for her of what she is here to do, it gave her permission to let go of that belief system that she was not good at X, Y, or Z, that she was not meant to be doing those things at this time. Now, could those gifts develop for her further down the road? Of course they can, and they have. One thing that can happen, though, is that these extraneous gifts might not show up for you until your main gifts are honed. So what you are here to do is supposed to be your main focus. And once you move into that focus and start really working with the energy of what you're here to do, that's when some of the other supporting tools will start coming in for you. So please, please, please do not look at anybody's journeys as a template. Only look at your own. And if you need help with that, if you need help with your soul's purpose to know what it is, you can certainly get a reading with me. You can get an astrology reading as long as it looks at your past lives, North Node, South Node, that type of thing. You can get a numerology reading with somebody like Ann Perry. There's so many different ways that you can discover and confirm your soul purpose and what you're here to do to unlock that space that is going to allow you to shine. Next, I'm going to ask my guides a question about being a very high vibrational being on this planet. So I know that I have come across many different clients who are very high dimensional beings. We are all high dimensional beings, but it just really depends on your frequency, how long you've been here on Earth, how many incarnations you've signed up for on this planet. All kinds of things can be a factor in how high vibrational your energy is as it starts coming into this incarnation. So guardian angels of the highest light, my guardian angels, I'm asking you for some answers regarding high vibrational beings, beings from other planets, and how it is for them to come down here to Earth to be incarnated. We are really happy that you have asked this question and that this particular session with this client is going to be made public for many reasons, because so many people put themselves in the same boat, so to speak, of energy, and it does not serve them. For energies that are higher vibrational, it just simply means that they have not spent any time or a lot of time on lower frequency planets such as Earth. They have spent most of their time incarnated in other forms on other planets that are a lot less heavy, that have a frequency of divine unconditional love, and they are anchoring that energy onto that particular planet. And that was certainly the case for your client, Raya. When she decided to have the experience on this planet, as you said, she came here when she felt like the party had already started. In other words, she came here and Earth was in full swing. There were a lot of things that she had missed in terms of how souls operate on this planet. It is frequent that these high vibrational souls will sign up for incredibly, incredibly difficult lifetimes. And the reason for this is, as we said in the session, that it is in order to lower their vibration so they can exist in a physical vessel. If they did not lower their vibration, they would not be able to exist in the physical body. The physical body would not be able to handle the energy from that particular being. Another way that some beings do this is that they leave a good portion of their energy or their soul on the other side and only use a very small portion of their energy to incarnate in the body. And that also achieves a similar result. It is entirely up to the soul what they choose to do and how they choose to go about incarnating on Earth. Now, a soul such as Annette's doesn't have to do that, because when she incarnated on Earth, she started out from the very beginning at the creation of Earth. Her soul was able to become acclimated slowly to the energies of Earth, and then to the energies of humanity, and then to the energies that came after. That is how a lot of people on this planet have gotten accustomed to this planet's energy. Keep in mind that Annette's soul has also been incredibly high vibrational in the past, as most souls have been. And in fact, we would say all souls have been coming from divine source energy. But the reason why we say most souls is because sometimes there have been other souls who have started off in lower frequency, who have arisen into higher frequencies. And that is a subject for another time. But the percentage of souls that start off in lower frequency are very few and far between. There aren't many of them. Not only are there not many of them, but there aren't many of them on this planet. Many of them were on other planets and completed their ascension journeys already. Okay, so I'm actually curious now about that energy. Those little, the energies that they were talking about that are that they started off in low vibration. I don't know how that's possible. Can you please expand on that a little bit? We can, but it's not entirely important given the fact that there are very few souls on your planet that started off that way. We would give you a number of 5 or 6. It is not very high. So in the grand scheme of things, we feel that it is not important information to give. Okay, that's fine. All right. So when a high frequency being decides to incarnate on this planet, sort of mid-game, if you will, how is it that they decide what they are going to experience in order to lower their vibration so they can exist on this planet? It really has to do with what their soul's purpose is, what they are here to do, what they came here to accomplish. And they will choose scenarios that will complement that. Okay. All right, great. So then let's talk a little bit about the veil of forgetfulness, as I call it. Why do we have the veil of forgetfulness? Why can't we know exactly who we are? If you knew exactly who you were as a soul, this planet would cease to exist. There would be no reason for the planet to exist. You would all ascend and just be. You could be on these other high vibrational planets. You could be incarnated on other planets that are pure, divine, unconditional love. You wouldn't have to be on planet Earth. The whole purpose of planet Earth is to allow and encourage planet Earth and all of its inhabitants to ascend to that place of unconditional love, divine source energy love, after going through all of the contrast and challenges that it has gone through, finding the balance where there hasn't been balance, finding equality where there has been duality. This is the whole purpose of being here. And so you must forget who you are in order for your soul to learn and have new experiences. Because if you knew who you were as a soul, you would make entirely different decisions. You wouldn't do the things that would lead you to spiritual, emotional, and physical growth. There are certainly souls out there that have not decided to incarnate on Earth, and their experience is that of divine source love. Their experience is that of a higher frequency. Is there any other planet in the entire universe that has this same type of situation, if you will, like this veil of forgetfulness? There is one other planet that is the same, okay? Does it exist now? It does. And there are beings on this planet just like there are beings on Earth. This was a planet that started before Earth, but was a much shorter experiment, if you will, in the ascension process. When this particular planet was created by the souls that created it, it was not in as low of an energy as Earth has been in the past. It was in a much higher frequency than Earth, although a low frequency by our consideration. And so that was the first planet to ascend, and they were successful. There have been other planets who have tried to ascend and failed. Earth is the first planet to go through this ascension and learning process from an extremely low frequency, then to ascend to an incredibly high frequency. And Earth is well on her way to achieve that. Okay. So the other planets that you're speaking of, the high vibrational planets, the high dimensional planets, you're talking about all of them, correct? Like all of the planets out there, because I'm sure that there are millions of planets. There are billions of planets, in fact. And yes, every single one of them that has life forms are of a higher vibration than Earth. There are many science fiction movies, there are many stories that you tell here on Earth that say that aliens are mean or murderous or cunning or wanting to steal of your resources. And that is just simply not the case. There is not a being in the universe and all of the billions of planets that is seeking anything from Earth other than to learn. And if Earth completes her ascension process, which she is in the process of doing, there will be other planets that decide to do this. What we had to do as a collective was decide how many of these planets could be allowed to exist. Because in the learning process, going through the shadow, there can be incredible volatility. And so in order to protect all of the other beings in the galaxies, in the entire universe, there is a strict watch on Earth, and you are very protected. And there are interventions constantly to make sure that the scales tip in the direction of unconditional love. And we will make sure that we use this same protocol when other planets decide to have the same journey. This sort of veil of forgetfulness that we have, I always thought it was because of the psychic debris that we come here with. That is the function of the psychic debris. Yes, the psychic debris acts as your veil of forgetfulness, as you call it. It does have an element of creating a blurred vision, if you will. You're not able to see clearly. And it is because of all of the experiences you have on this earth that perpetuates that veil of forgetfulness, if you will, until you come to the point in your awakening process where that veil is no longer necessary. And you are closely approaching that period of time where the veil is not necessary, in which case you might recognize that a lot of your young people are being born now into their spiritual gifts and being able to use their spiritual gifts as well as remembering their past lives, being able to be in a higher frequency while being incarnated in the body from a very early age. This is something that is happening much more frequently now. The other aspect of the veil of forgetfulness is that when a soul such as Raya's comes to Earth, she doesn't have any psychic debris to bring with her. So because of that, she will need to have sort of an artificial veil of forgetfulness put around her, so then she can, in fact, live the human life. Now, as you saw in the session, that veil was not very effective for her in some of those initial incarnations. She did still connect with her soul, and she did see how other people were not necessarily connecting to her energy. So it can be difficult for souls like hers who incarnate without the gradual introduction into the planet. Okay, great. Thank you for that. All right, so the last question I have is about desire. When we have really, really deep desires in this life, does that mean that it is part of our life purpose to achieve them? It is not necessarily the case, no. There are certain cases where you have a desire and that desire is coming from a previous lifetime, in which case that desire needs to be cleared out or eradicated in some way. Now, it's all beautiful because that is usually used as a benchmark for growth. So if you are able to quell a desire that you really want and understand that, I don't really need it now, I'm okay without it, then that can allow some incredible self-growth. Most of the time, our desires do point us in the way of what we are here to do. There are times when you will desire something as a child and maybe you will forget it for a while, but then you come back to it as an adult. That often happens where you anchor in that desire, that knowledge, or that need for a particular experience. And that will help you and guide you throughout the rest of your lifetime. Annette, you experience this perfectly, where since the very beginning of your life, you wanted nothing but a beautiful, romantic, divine relationship. And what you got for most of your life is a lot of codependency, showing you what unconditional love isn't. And that is often the case with your soul purpose and your life purpose, is you will be shown the opposite of that so you can move into what it is you're truly here to do. And that is the purpose of being on this planet, is diving into the shadow, or the opposite of what you are here to do, in order to learn how to get there, to learn how to get yourself back to that beautiful, divine, unconditional love after being in the shadow. And that is something that you are here to do, and you are here to help others do as well. And that goes for everyone. You are here to master what it is your life purpose and soul purpose is, in order for you to be able to help others. Whether you recognize you are helping somebody, whether you are a teacher or not, you are helping. Everyone is helping everybody at all times, whether you realize it or not. Okay, so then in this specific instance, Raya's desire to have a child and then not having one yet, is that carried over from a past life, or is this a desire that she was having because she is meant to have a child? For Raya specifically, her desire to have a child was born out of the past life that she had, where she had the unconditional love of her children. It was one of the first times that she had experienced that unconditional love from children. And when that happened many, many lifetimes ago for her, it really did anchor in that feeling of unconditional love. And she will repeatedly want to experience that. But as you said in the session, that would be the easy way out. Her challenge in this lifetime is to be able to love not something or someone that is difficult, but something that is difficult for her to express in her own vulnerability. And that is what she is working on at this time. So having a desire doesn't necessarily mean that you're supposed to have it in this lifetime. That is correct. It often does mean that, but it doesn't always. Okay. All right, great. Thank you. Okay. So I want to thank my guardian angels of the highest light for giving us that beautiful channeled message for all of those subjects. And I just wanted to give a little side note. So Raya is in Sydney, Australia. I do have clients who are in Australia, New Zealand, all kinds of time zones. And I understand that my calendar does not necessarily allow for the time zones in Australia and New Zealand that would be beneficial for you. So I'm going to recommend that if any of you out there who are in Australia or New Zealand who would like to have a session with me, if you want to just send me an email, and you can do that through my website, send me an email and just let me know, and we can arrange a time together that will work for you, because I know the time zones can be a little bit tricky. So if you don't see a time that works for you on my schedule, you can reach out to me personally. Thank you so much. And I look forward to connecting with all of you next week. If you're enjoying this podcast, it would be really amazing if you could like, share, and subscribe. Wherever you listen to podcasts, whether it's Apple or Spotify, Feel free to give it a review if you feel called. If you are following me on YouTube, make sure you subscribe and hit the bell so you are notified for every single new episode of the Akashic Recordings. If you feel called to book a session with me, you can always reach me at infinitesoullove.com, and you can book directly on my website. Thank you so much for all of your support, and I can't wait to connect with you next week.